Lohan has cemented himself as probably the most dangerous man in Kengan Omega, with Shen Wulong himself saying that Shen Lohan is the closest man to him, and saying, and I quote, "You're probably right. There are a lot of people who treat me like a monster. But if you ask me, Lohan's the real monster." Of course, he adds a qualifier to that, saying, "Not like he's a match for me though." And so, if there were any Lohan doubters out there, this is a lot of hype that Lohan is getting right now, and I think we should pay a lot of attention to it, as it might dictate what we think of Lohan as a character and what type of future there is for him, especially in his plan to essentially dethrone the Connector. In this video, I'm going to be talking about that plan in specific and the chances of it succeeding or failing, and what that could mean in terms of the different outcomes there is. Now, I've done a video on Lohan's strength specifically, so I'll refer you to that video where I look at all the points before this chapter that sort of hinted at Lohan being essentially the second strongest in the verse. And that's very important to understand, that Lohan is more than likely number 2, because that means that Shen Wulong is the only person right now in the verse that could beat Lohan, no one else, unless they somehow manage to gang up on Lohan. In theory, Kuroki would even fail to defeat Lohan, at least especially when it comes to this statement that Shen is saying. And even Shen thinks that it might actually be possible for Lohan to actually get his hands on his memories. And so the plan doesn't seem like it will be a direct fail. However, Shen Wulong does seem to see it coming, and so he'll probably take precautions to make sure that it doesn't happen. But as we all know, Lohan isn't working alone. He apparently has Togita Nico with him, the last Nico essentially. And this actually throws a huge wrench into this entire situation, because if you've been paying attention to some of my theories that I had released, especially when it came to the Tiger's Vessel theory, I thought that Nico and Lohan were working together for a while, but that actually isn't the case. Lohan's plan to attack Shen Wulong is something he's only really implementing right around now, and is actually asking Nico for his cooperation. And so, because of this, there's probably no deep bond between them. And if they're willing to essentially betray the Connector, who they've been with a lot longer and should have loyalty towards, the chances that they'll have loyalty for each other are pretty low. I'm guessing there's going to be, at some point, a backstab, especially as they go towards the finish line. The question really is, who will be the person who will end up on top between Lohan and Nico, who will receive the memories basically? And I think that this is a pretty good opportunity for Nico to cement himself as a villain in the story. I know a lot of people who read the Kengan Omega manga want Togita Nico to be the villain of this series. Though I think it's unlikely, I think that this right here is a good opportunity for him. If he manages to outplay everyone, including Lohan, then he could get his hands on the knowledge and get massively stronger as a result, catapulting him up to final villain status, potentially. But I don't think this is likely. The reason why I don't think this is likely is because I think Shen Lohan more than likely has a plan to betray everyone he was going to work with regardless. Again, back to when he was trying to negotiate with Oma and Ryuki. he specifically chose them because, of course, their lives are technically in danger, you could say, since the worm is fighting for them. And he even tried to use the death of Gaiomokaku in the hands of Shen Wulong to persuade Ryuki. So Lohan's very calculated, and I don't think it's a coincidence that he targeted Nico to ask if he would cooperate. He more than likely knows that Nico probably isn't as loyal as he should be. There's also the fact that Oma said he had a bad feeling with working with Lohan, and I think that this is the contingency that Lohan was going to implement. If he had managed to get Ryuki, Oma, and Nico to work together with him, I think he would have ultimately killed all of them, because he just seems like that type of person. The only thing that would surprise me, and I think is the real plot twist here, is that if Nico is actually loyal to Shen Wulong. We do know that Shen Wulong can tell that Lohan isn't loyal to him, but we haven't seen him pay attention to Nico in that same light. Now, it could be that that's a blind spot. Maybe Nico doesn't even care. Or maybe Shen Wulong wasn't actually paying attention to Nico enough because Lohan is a much greater threat. However, another explanation is that maybe Shen Wulong knows Togita Nico is loyal to him, which means that yes, there would still be a betrayal in this situation, but Nico would technically be on the connector's side. And even though this does seem like it would be unlikely because of course Nico has been called pure evil, this, that, and the other, but if Nico does have some loyalty there could be a relationship that Wulong and Nico actually have. However, what I do want to somewhat focus on is that the chances of this completely failing is unlikely. I think there are really only a few options here. Either Shen Lohan proves that, oh yeah, he's that guy, Nico ends up being that guy, or they somehow actually manage to cooperate together and prove that they're those guys. But even if they somewhat succeed, it won't necessarily be the end. And what I mean by that is it probably won't be a clean battle, considering, of course, that Shen Wulong is the person involved here. And so there will definitely be some casualties to a certain extent. But yeah, what I think, hey look, I'm backing the Lohan coins all the way. I know people have a lot of Nico investments. I think y'all are gonna go in the mud, but I really don't think that the end of this entire plan is them just basically failing and failing pathetically. I think that is the least likely outcome of all of this. But yeah, that's the video on this subject. It was a rather quick one, discussion on this plan, and it was kind of interesting knowing that the connector has at least some idea of what Lohan really wants to do, but he doesn't necessarily know about, of course, he will target him at this point. So yeah, that's it. That's the video. If you liked it, don't forget to like and sub, and until next time, take it easy.